Hi, this is John Ryan of SportsMemo.com. We appreciate you attending today's live show. I have with me to start the show Albert from Analytics Capper, and that's the @ sign. I apologize for stuttering there. At Analytics Capper on Twitter. He's been a great addition to this show, which has made profits in 10 of the last 12. I actually went 1-1 last night in my solo debut, going 1-1. I had the Clippers, and I also had the winner on Purdue covering against Maryland in a real nail biter. So, Albert, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you, John. I'm doing good. It's February 3rd. The month is starting off good, and I'm excited to do our show. I'm excited to hear your prop bets.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of shows, Albert, on different platforms, and obviously over at Sports Memo and Wager Talk. And we keep beating this dead horse, or at least I do. That the more you talk to people, especially the veterans, the seasoned ones that have ideas and experiences that you can immediately respect, the better off you're going to be. And I wanted to highlight three that I like. And the first one is kind of a funny one. And at no point in time should any bet be funny because we work hard for our money. You just don't want to throw money away. But I'm pretty bullish on Tom Brady getting more than half a yard rushing in this game, and I'll quickly tell you why. In the 6 Super Bowls that he has won, 3 of them he has gained positive yards. 2 of them he has gained double digits. The most he has ever gained in a Super Bowl was 15, and that was against the Atlanta Falcons, and we all remember that game. In the 3 losses, and I found this a stunning statistic that I did not know. In the 2 Giant losses, he had no attempts, no yards. And in the other loss, he was negative 2 yards. So I think in this matchup, and we're getting paid plus 145 is what the line I got at MGM. Doesn't it seem reasonable that he could fall forward for maybe even score a touchdown from the 2-yard line maybe?
That's a great bet, and that's exactly what I was thinking when I was listening to it. Is 4th and 1 or maybe 1st and goal. I think he definitely would do the QB sneak. I mean, he's probably the best that's ever done it. He's not very fast. He's not very agile, but he just puts his body on the line all the time when it comes to the short yardage situations. So I do like that, especially at the plus 145 number. I've kept a mental note, so that's something that I'm going to look for on my end as well.
Yeah, and the thing I'll add is that he was sacked 3 times all season, so it stands to reason that even if he gets sacked once for, say, 5 yards, even -7, that he'll overcome that because in each time that he has gained, or each Super Bowl where he has been sacked, it has not been a big number. Like, he's obviously very good. He's the GOAT, in my opinion, no question asked. But when you get sacked, he doesn't take that big 15, 20-yard sack loss. So anyway.
I mean, he can't even run 10 yards backwards. So, yeah, he's never back there anyways. He takes a quick 1 to 2 drops and he lets the ball fly. But we do want to mention that in the pros, a sack does not count as rushing yards. So that's not going to hurt that particular prop bet.
That's exactly right. That is right. It's a great point.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one we have here, this one is really intriguing to me. It's plus 1,100, and the defensive score, the Bucks' first score will be a defensive score. You get 11 plus 1,100, and a defensive score has occurred 8 times in Super Bowl history. And when that occurred, that team who got the defensive score went on to a 7-1 straight up record and 6-2 against the spread. I also think if a defensive score occurs at any point in the game, knowing that the team is 7-1 straight up and 6-2 against the spread gives you the opportunity to either hedge your bet that you placed pre-flop, being that the team that you bet on gave up the scoring touchdown, or if it was fortunately on the team that you bet on, in my case, the Bucks, then every time the Chiefs would score in game, you would add a little sprinkle on that line to the Bucks. So what do you think of that, Albert?
That's a very interesting statistic. You said 7-1 straight up, or 6-1?
7-1 straight up, the
7-1
team that
straight up.
got the defensive score.
That's big, because we both know that, you know, the offensive line for KC is hurting right now. They're going to be starting some guys that are not very good. Mahomes usually needs a lot of time for, you know, Hardman and Tyreek Hill and maybe Sammy Watkins on Sunday to run their patterns, because they do run really long patterns. I could see potentially a fumble or I don't know, interception, maybe, because Mahomes is a somewhat of a gunslinger. But yeah, I could see a fumble, and I can see something return to the end zone. Plus 1,100. I mean, anything at that number, if you like it, it's worth a sprinkle.
Yeah, I'm glad you're on my side. I feel better about it already. And the last one is actually a prop bet that I'm recommending not to do because the pay is nowhere close to where the astronomical odds should be, mathematically speaking. So this prop bet goes, it pays plus 600. If at any point in the game the Chiefs trail by 9 or more points and then go on to win the game by 9 or more points, that's the prop bet. So, you know, I just asked my database pretty easily, when has this happened? Well, it's happened twice, in 2008 and then last year when the Chiefs fell behind 10-0. So it's 2 times out of 54 games. And for this to happen and also be back-to-back occurrences on this by the same team, it believe me, it is astronomical. It is, you know, 100 times the plus 600 that you would be getting. So I'm not saying that it can't happen. I'm just saying that, you know, my reality in the mathematical world I live in, it's very unlikely to happen.
Yeah, books are very smart. You and I both know that this is a degen bet, if you will. I think everyone knows that the Kansas City Chiefs like to get down and come back. They don't cover. They're on a crazy winning streak without covering. I think all those things are the reason why this bet is even available. And also, they just came back, right? They just came back the previous game. They came back against Houston last season. There's so many examples where the Chiefs get down early and come back, but this is definitely at a plus 600 number. You're not gaining any value here. This is more of an action bet, and it's something for you to kind of temper. And I do like that you gave us 2 prop bets to bet and then 1 not to bet. I like that a lot.
Well, thank you for saying that, Albert. Come from you, that means something. So we're going to transition here to the NBA. And we're going to see what Albert likes today. There's quite a few games on this card today that I like. I was a pass yesterday other than the Clippers. Even I had 0 premium picks for Sports Memo. So I'm interested to know who you're on today.
Yeah, the NBA has been really funky recently. A lot of these simple reads have been successful, which to me is painful, because I like to look at more than just the simple reads. But some things that really pop out to me, for example, is the Mavericks. They're on a 6-game losing streak. The last 2 games, they were actually favored by 1, 2, or even 3 points, depending on the outlet you have. Tonight, they opened up as a 1-point favorite, and I see some outlets having it as a 2-point or even 1.5-point favorite. The fact that they're on a terrible slide and they're getting this type of number makes me like them. Obviously, I like them. I didn't bet it, but I did like them the previous 2 games as well, and they choked at the end. This is going to be a good opportunity to jump in live, whether you're on the Hawks or the Mavericks, because I do see this game ending very close. The Mavs right now are underperforming in terms of one-possession games. I believe they've lost 12 straight games that are 3 points and less. That regression is bound to happen. We don't know if that's tonight, but that is something to keep your eye on and something to jump on for the long term.
That sounds really good, Albert. I like that. I like those words, regression. You know, whether it's regress or regression, it makes it sound like you're either following a trend that's well formed, or you're actually looking to get some value in terms of the price being very cheap. So I like that quite a bit. You see anything else on tonight's card?
Tonight's card is very interesting. You have a couple big favorites, right? In the Bucks, in the 76ers, in the Heat, and in the Spurs. Those 4 games are above 7 to 8 point discrepancies. Those are big. Those are tougher for me to personally gauge, but I'm interested to hear what you like so far.
Well, in the action today, I was looking at the Clippers Cleveland game. The Clippers last night. I'm glad I didn't bet it, because if I would have bet that game against the Nets, I would have taken the Clippers. The Nets are still a team that I think is going to be very inconsistent. The defense is not there. At sometimes in certain stretches of time, it is there, but it's nowhere close to even being an average NBA defense, even during those short stretches. So I still maintain that I view the Nets as a fade. It would be very difficult for me to ever bet on them. But with the Clippers coming off the loss, playing back-to-back nights, there's going to be a little bit of a cheaper price here to get the Clippers, who are, arguably the best team in the NBA. And they don't have the best record right now, but they're darn close to it. And I think if you get the Clippers here at 7.5 points, I think it's a very cheap price to get on board. And then, like we've been talking all along, you use the in game. If you get anywhere close to pick, should Cleveland get off to a rocket ship start in the beginning of the game, and you can get the Clippers under 3 points as a favorite, I would be all over it.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to piggyback on with the Nets, you're right. Their defense is atrocious. I think they went on a streak of 12 or 13 straight overs, which is a sign that they don't really stop anybody. I mean, their offense is elite, obviously, with 3 of the best offensive players in the game. But one thing to talk about with the Nets is, and because of their inconsistent record, they don't play or perform well against the bad teams. But when it comes to the elite teams, I believe they're now 6-0 after their win with the Clippers. They're 6-0 against the top 5 teams in the NBA. So that means they definitely get up for those elite teams. I can already name, the Sixers, the Bucks one night, and the Clippers are 3 that really pop out in my head. But they are 6-0. So that's something that maybe you can fade them against the bad teams and maybe find some value in terms of the good teams. But you're right. The Clippers look focused this season. I think Ty Lue has them focused on the regular season, which is not something Kawhi is used to. Paul George is playing great. He's always good in the regular season. It's a good bet. The one thing I would say is I like Cleveland in general as a team. I like Sexton. I like Garland. They're very scrappy young players. It's hard for me to bet scrappy dogs just because they have that fight in them, but I can definitely see the Clippers tonight. Is there another game that you like, John?
One other one I was going to get I was kind of on the fence with this game, and I'm just pulling it up here. It's the 76ers, and this is the reason why I'm deferring to you, because I've been falling in love with the Sixers, and that's never a good thing. And I say that in the betting sense of the word. Okay, it's this, so we all know that. But the team is a team that you can like this year, especially when you see Simmons and Embiid playing together. I think there's a little concern whether Embiid's going to be playing tonight, and I didn't have a chance to check the news wire before I came on the air here, but just wondering what your take is here. And I guess my biggest question is, do you think the Sixers have reached a fair value, or are they still cheap?
No, that's a great discussion. I would say I've been on the wrong side of the Sixers twice already this season. I think I've undervalued them personally. I think the 76ers are a great team, even without Embiid, right? They were on the road in Indy recently, tied game late, and somehow won by 7 or 8 points. They know how to close games. Tobias Harris is playing at an all-time high for him in his career. One thing you want to talk about is the last time Tobias had a really good season was under Doc in LA. So the fact that he's under Doc again in Philly, he's flourishing. I don't think people realize how good Seth Curry is. I believe, obviously, it's a small number, but I think he is from a percentage standpoint, he's the greatest 3-point shooter in the history of the NBA. You could double check that, John, but he's definitely top 3 or top 5. I think he's number 1. But that type of sniper, that type of shooting that plays off the ball with Ben Simmons is lethal. And I think Seth has been a great addition for them. Shake Milton's moving up, like he's improving every game. You have the defense flexibility with Thibault and guys like that. So, I mean, the team is constructed very well. I'm happy for Philly fans that they didn't trade for Harden and gave up, their core and their draft capital. In terms of the betting market, I think that when a star player goes out in the NBA, the markets overreact too much. For example, when Embiid doesn't play or when Ben Simmons doesn't play, I think the action is on the other team instantly, and I think people are getting bitten by that. So I would say whether or not Embiid plays tonight, I think it's a fair play. If you like the Sixers, you stick with the Sixers. They've been covering all year long. I don't think anything's going to change with that.
Yeah, I like what you said. The chemistry is far different. I actually had the privilege of meeting Brett Brown, the former coach of the Sixers, on several occasions. And in my opinion, I was ready to suit up and go out in the court. He just a great motivator. But perhaps the right combination of players and personalities wasn't there. I mean, who knows what goes on in the truth? I've learned a long time ago, just don't listen to the media when they say that, oh, there's a rift, like Brady and Belichick, there's a rift, and you know what? So what if there is? I don't need to, I really don't need to hear it at this point in my career. I've learned that, I think you would agree with me, Albert, that you believe not more than 50% of what you hear in the media, and maybe it's 25% nowadays, but that kind of nonsense I just don't get caught up into. But point is that Doc Rivers has more experience than Brett Brown did. Brett Brown coached the Australian national team, and he's off the tree of the Popovich tree of San Antonio, which is, that whole style of basketball is predicated on everybody touches the ball on every possession. And those Spur teams, including this one this year, are very good passing teams. And the Sixers are evolving into that. So, I'm on a soapbox here, Albert, and I apologize, but I still think the futures bet for the Sixers to win the Eastern Conference is still really, really cheap and very realistic bet to make.
I think it's a 2-team race in the East. I don't think Milwaukee is part of the discussion. I think they've taken a step back. I like Drew Holiday a lot, but I think year 3 of this MVP Giannis level, I think people are figuring out how to guard him and how to scheme against him. I think it's between the 76ers and the Nets. Obviously the Nets, the defense, like we already alluded to, is just horrific. But I think just having 3 of the top 15 guys in the league is something that other teams cannot really handle. But Embiid, I do want to mention him. He is right now, through 30 games, a front runner for MVP. He's playing unbelievably. If he wins MVP, he will be the first center to win MVP in over 20 years since Shaq in 2000. So it is kind of a renaissance of the big man, because it's basically between him, Nikola Jokic, and maybe LeBron as well. So we have 2 centers in the top 3 MVP discussion. It's fun to see, even though we are in 2021 and we see a very high pace and space type of ball game. A lot of threes are still being shot, but these 2 centers are really dominating the league.
That's an awesome stat. 20 years and then being in company of Shaq, that would be really good for him. That would be great. And I don't think the Nets have a guy that can stop him.
No.
By the way, so I think that's pretty big stuff. Well, I got a special guest here in the waiting room. It's Kyle Hunter. Kyle, can you hear me?
Yeah. How are you guys doing?
Hey, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. We're trying like a fancy transition here.
Yeah, sounds good. When he says fancy, he's kicking me off. So then, Kyle, you can jump on.
Well, I'll try to do as well as Albert's done here.
But Albert's got other shows to do as well. It's Super Bowl week. Everybody appreciates everybody's time during this week. It's just great to be able to get together with the three of you in any way, shape, or form. And, I just can't wait for that game to start.
Yeah.
It's like if we could have ever seen LeBron go up against Jordan when Jordan was in his prime, this is probably akin to that. It's just got that feel of the, I don't want to say the young lion versus the old lion because Brady's not playing like an old lion. But in terms of the GOAT and maybe the guy who's going to become the next GOAT, you can't help but to kind of daydream about it.
Yeah, I do have to jump. John, thank you so much for having me on. One last final point I will say on the game, right? We still have 4 or 5 days left, but I don't think Mahomes can ever be considered the GOAT if he loses on Sunday, right? If he loses to the GOAT, I don't think you can ever be the GOAT. So it doesn't matter if he goes on and wins the next 5. If you lose to Brady on Sunday, I don't think he can be number 1. So that to me is the legacy at play here on Sunday. I'm very interested to hear, Kyle, what you think. And thank you again for having me on, John.
Hey, you bet, Albert. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Welcome, Kyle.
How you doing, John?
How are you these days?
So we got the big game coming up here pretty soon. We've had all these days to talk about it, and then it's about to get real, though. It's getting pretty close now.
I was out for some lunch, and I realized it's like 75 hours away, I think. We're under 100.
Yeah, it's getting pretty close, and I'm starting to pay attention to the weather forecast and things like that. I didn't care what the weather said a week ago, but now it's starting to matter whether it looks like it could be rain or wind or anything like that. And I want to get a reliable forecast. I want to know what kind of injuries we're looking at. And I think now is about the time that we're going to start getting that kind of information. So, I haven't fired on a bunch of plays here. I've taken some props. I haven't taken anything on the game as far as side or total. Not sure what I'm going to do there yet. To be honest, I think you and I have talked about this before. I don't see huge line value in a game like this. This is the Super Bowl. The odds makers are not going to screw it up in a big way. I'd be careful of anybody who says they have some massive edge on this game. This is, the play of the year or anything like that, because we know that they're going to get it right most of the time when it comes to these Super Bowls.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I get, neither one of us like to brag when we're running hot, but I admit I'm running pretty hot. And for some crazy reason, I've been blessed to be 17-5 in Super Bowls.
Nice.
Last 20 years, but obviously 2 of those Super Bowls I had side and total. One of those side wins was that Butler interception.
Oh, yeah. I had that one too. That was one of my more fortunate ones. Yeah.
So this isn't all my machine learning stuff or the analytics or studying for 3 days in a row with no sleep. Sometimes like I always say, sometimes you're the dog and sometimes you're the fire hydrant, and you just keep going one day at a time. But I know, Kyle, you'll share this with me too, is that as we get closer to game time, my excitement level goes up. And so will people listening to this. Just don't make the mistake of going for it. This should be treated just as one of my plays that's going tonight, or one of Kyle's plays that's going tonight. That's how much it should count. And sure, you're going to add a few prop bets. But again, I know Kyle's going to agree with me on this. And from my Wall Street days, if you play multiple prop bets, you want to create a portfolio that in Wall Street terms is beta balanced. So, you don't want to just own Apple Computer and Microsoft and NVIDIA. That's not a balanced portfolio because they're all dependent on that technology sector doing well. So you got to have, the General Electrics. You got to have, the Apple. You have to have ExxonMobil, Walmart. Those types where you're balancing many different sectors. So take the economic sectors I just mentioned and then apply it to the game. You have passing, you have running, you have 2 different teams, you have over, under, and make sure that you're balanced, because a lot of times people make that grave mistake of, I like the Bucks, so I'm going to bet Brady over passing yards. I'm going to bet Brady over passing touchdowns because guarantee, oh my God, he's going to throw 4 touchdowns. And you get carried away with yourself, and before you know it, you're watching the game and it's not going your way, and at that point you can't really hedge a prop bet.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. You could be 0-5 before you know it. You have correlated plays, as you said, kind of diversifying and making sure that you have something that's a little bit different. Because you can have edges on a game, and you can think that a game state's going to play out in a certain way, and you could still like an over on one player and under on another player that are not necessarily correlated totally. Something's going to be different about those plays to where you could go 1-1, you could go 2-0. But if you, like you said, if you take everything over about Tom Brady or everything under about Mahomes or whatever it may be, you could find yourself in a pretty deep hole pretty quick, and you don't want to do that in a big game like this.
yeah, or worse yet, you win them all and then think you're a genius.
Yeah, yeah,
Trust me, I've been there. Where you start feeling, oh man, I'm pretty smart here.
yeah,
And the betting gods are very fickle, and they can humble you real quick, just like the market can. As an institutional trader, you couldn't fool yourself on any given day because the trading guys were going to take care of you, and that's how it is. That's what makes this fun, actually. But Kyle, I wanted to see if you had any player props that have caught your eye that you're starting to think might be an area to look.
yeah. I like a couple things here in this game. The first one I'll say, I like Cam Brate under receiving yards in this game. I think if you look at Tampa Bay, they have so many receiving options on the field at all the time. Brate is a red zone target, a guy that is liable to catch a touchdown. If you want to bet him as a touchdown scorer at any point, I wouldn't blame you too much. But I don't see him being that guy that you throw it for the deep pass in the middle of the field when you have Evans and Godwin and Gronkowski and all the other guys that they have. I don't know why he'd be a big target. Obviously, it's possible. You and I both know this. It's possible that he breaks wide open on one play and it loses. At the same time, what I'm trying to do is find an edge, something that I think will win more times than it will lose. And I think a bet like this, we've got under 27.5, under 26.5 yards. I think it's likely that he isn't targeted very many times. Honestly, he won't be on the field most of the game. So that helps us out, obviously, because the less you're on the field, the less chances you have to be targeted. And Brady looks for him in certain spots, and I don't think it's for the long pass in the middle of the field.
Yeah, I like it. I don't mean to bring up the 28-3 Super Bowl, which is, I think that's been trademarked, actually. That was the lead that Atlanta had before things fell apart. But in that Super Bowl, the Atlanta defense was on the field in that first half a ton. And when they started coming back, you could see the wear and tear on that unit. So I've actually run a few simulations here with this Tampa Bay defense, which kind of reminds me of that unit. That Patriots unit where they would give up yards between the 20s, but then in the red zone, they brought the load. And I'm just wondering whether like time of possession yet again. We all know turnovers are huge in a game like this, but assuming that turnovers are even, but time of possession gets lopsided by maybe 5 minutes entering into the third quarter, whether that's not an opportunity to live bet the team that actually has the advantage, thinking that the defense is starting to wear down. And that's just, a thought, but I know there's a lot of different ways you can exploit that. But if you agreed with me, Kyle, how would you recommend taking advantage of that?
Both of us think that live betting has quite a bit of value here. And the NFL, like a lot of the other sports, there are going to be runs. I think this will be a close game. I think that, right after someone scores, taking the other side, if you like them pregame, is a good way to look at this. Like you said, if we happen to see a box score that looks like it's, time of possession strongly in one favor, but, maybe they turned it over in the red zone, or maybe they kicked field goals too often, I would think that you might see regression to the mean in a case like that, where you see, an offense that's very good that moves between the 20s, that maybe they actually do end up getting in the end zone later, to where you could bet that team when they're down a bit. So I don't have a strong lean on the side in this game. I'm pretty sure I won't bet the side in this game. I think Kansas City does deserve to be favored. I'm not anxious to bet against Brady and the Bucks. They're playing very well. So I'm not sure where I'm going to go with this game, but like you said, maybe you look for those things that stand out that maybe are not what you expected them to be. Maybe there's been 2 turnovers from one of the teams, but they moved the ball well. Maybe the other team has just benefited from that. Usually in a game, you see something that stands out in a box score, by halftime or by the third quarter. So I think looking for something like that makes sense.
And lastly, on the Super Bowl, before we tackle some of the college hoop games or NBA games that you're liking on the card today, what do you think of Fournette as the MVP? Is a kind of flying under the radar, but I guess he's really not flying under the radar anymore because I've heard that name pretty many times in the last 24 hours. But,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, Jones is a really good back too. If he's healthier, I think he'll get a decent amount of carries. And I like the rushing yards over for Jones. I do think Tampa runs it quite a bit in this game. I don't think they want Brady to throw it 50 or 55 times here. I don't know that they really want that shootout with KC. I think they prefer to play ball control, keep it away from Mahomes. I think really that's the best strategy when you're against Mahomes is to try to keep it out of his hands because this guy, he gets down and he has tons of weapons around him. He is extremely good. I think that they would have a really good chance of coming back even if they're down. So I guess that I would think Kansas City, if they're down, would make a pretty good live bet in this game. But as far as Fournette, I don't have any strong opinion there because I do think Jones will get enough carries here that maybe he busts one and that he could be the guy. It's hard to bet the MVP here because Brady and Mahomes are such huge favorites. You're trying to find somebody that's way under the radar. I mean, maybe you try to find a defensive guy that has a chance, maybe a Von Miller type performance or something like that. I don't have any that really stand out to me. I know White has potential to be a really big player. But Brady and Mahomes are quite likely to be the MVP here, I would assume.
Yeah, that's how it's priced. But I like your idea with the defensive player winning the award. And actually, there's a prop bet that involves Tampa Bay, and that their first score is by the defense, and you're getting 1,100. So if a defensive score in the Super Bowls has occurred 8 times. So the percentages aren't as low as I would have originally thought. The teams that have had a pick six or a defensive score are 7-1 and 6-2 against the spread. So then it becomes an issue of, all right, who on Tampa Bay would you take as the guy who pulls it off? Is it a corner who whoever he was covering did not catch a ball and got the score, or is it a linebacker that got 3 sacks and the defensive score? I mean, that's where it becomes really hard.
Yeah.
And you just blindly throw it at the starters, thinking that, okay, well, there's going to be a defensive score because that's what is that, about 8%, no, 12% chance of happening.
Yeah. I have a quick question for you, John, if that's
Sure.
all right.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on, because it relates to what you were just saying right there. What are your thoughts on to throw an interception? I've seen the odds out there is Mahomes to throw an interception is like plus 150 because he's been so good at taking care of the ball. Brady to throw an interception of any kind is minus 160 or so. You think these quarterbacks throw an interception in this game?
Well, I think the pricing is based on the recency. So you said it perfectly. So I think Mahomes is it's reversed. Like I actually think they should be closer to pick 'em, both of them. Brady coming off games throwing 3 interceptions. Sometimes I forget what the trend is, but many times he did not throw an interception following a game with 3. And as we all know, there weren't that many games that he did throw 3 in the first place. But because Mahomes has been taking care of the ball so well and hasn't thrown a pick, the public betting behavior is going to be that, well, that continues. And of course, with Brady throwing 3 last week, well, he's going to throw another one here. I wish I had that info right in front of me here to tell you what Brady's Super Bowl record is when he throws a pick. But it's good. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
A lot of Brady's picks too are Not all of them, but a lot of them are deflected passes. A lineman gets a fingertip on the ball and changes it just a little bit, and those are the ones that he has had in the Super Bowl. I mean, all he had to do is think of the New York Giants, for goodness sake, and the helmet catch. But that's on the other side of the ball. I don't know why I just said that.
Yeah, it was still a fluky play. That was one of
Yeah,
those things
I guess
that,
I was thinking of bad breaks,
yeah.
that aren't just, horrific throws that are picked off. And um, I think in that case, I would like to try to find a way to arbitrage that spread somehow, meaning that I would bet that Mahomes will throw one and that Brady wouldn't.
Okay,
Um,
yeah.
I,
I I see this personally as, I like Mahomes a lot as a quarterback. I think he's the best quarterback in the NFL now, and it's probably not even really that close. But Mahomes at plus 150 or 155 to throw an interception, I think is probably a decent play here. And that's from somebody who likes Mahomes and thinks the Chiefs probably have a decent chance of winning this game. He threw 2 interceptions last year in the Super Bowl. I know he took really good care of the football throughout the season. But Tampa Bay is an aggressive defense, and I would think they'll take some chances in a game like this. Mahomes has to have a little bit of jitters, right? I mean, it is the Super Bowl, so you give me, plus 155 or something like that for someone to throw an interception. I'm tempted by that, certainly. And as far as Brady, if it were pick'em, if it were plus 100, I'd probably take Brady to throw an interception, but I'm not laying minus 160.
yeah, I agree with that. I think the play is that Mahomes will, for sure. And that goes along with how you and I do prop bets. I mean, not all of them are dogs, but we look for that value.
Right.
For example, the one that I am going to do is Brady gains over half a yard, and you're getting plus 145, which seems almost insane to me. You know, the bad bet, in my opinion, is that you're going to bet that at minus whatever it is,
Yeah.
170, that he won't gain a yard. I mean, that to me is a dangerous bet to make. 3 of his 6 Super Bowl wins. I mentioned this earlier when Albert was on. 3 of the 6 Super Bowl wins, he had positive rushing yards. The 3 losses, the 2 against the Giants, he had no rushing attempts, no yards gained. But it seems like this guy is not 43 years old, and he seems to be more athletic than he ever has been. The velocity and spin rates are still crazy good despite his age. And who's to say that he won't score a touchdown on 4th and goal? So that's why I think that's a really, really good. That's probably my favorite prop bet to make right now.
Yeah, I'd hate to be laying minus 165 or whatever that would be, taking under on something like that. All it takes is one play of 1 yard and you get beat. I can't imagine. I mean, who would really want to be betting that? I can't imagine who would want to be betting the other side of that. Like you said, it's just hard to believe.
Well, in that Falcons Super Bowl 2016 season, he had 1 rushing attempt, and that, if you remember, it was in the 4th quarter, and it was 15 yards, 1 attempt. He's actually in the 6 wins never had 3 rushing attempts. He's had 2 and 1. He's had 2 rushing attempts 3 times and 1 rushing attempt 3 times. And then in the losses, he's only had 1 attempt, and that was a gain of 6 yards in the loss to the Eagles in the 2017 season. So maybe there's something there that if he would, well, I can't really come up with anything that has the database like the one with if Brady gets sacked more than 3 times, he's 0-5 straight up against the spread. But that doesn't correlate well to this. But anyway, I think that's one that is definitely worthwhile doing, and if it doesn't pan out, it doesn't pan out.
Yeah, I like the plus money price on that.
Yep. Anything else you want to mention on the Super Bowl? Or do you want to look at some? I know you like the Haslam metrics, which I learned about this site from you, and I think it's just awesome. And the guy should get all the credit in the world for putting this together free.
Yeah.
Data guys, data nutheads like myself. It's just like Treasure Island.
Yeah, I really like this site. If I could point out a couple of the ones that I really like to look at from that site, I think that'll be really helpful for viewers here. I like by clicking from Haslametrics, you click fingerprint, and then you look at away from home play. So what this is it's a gauge of how a team plays when they're not at home. So this is either neutral court or on the road. To me, this is really important once you get later in the season, because some of these teams have some drastic splits home and away. And this is a good gauge for when you get in these conference tournaments, when you get in the big dance. This is one of those spots where you can go and you can see, how does this team play at home versus how they play anywhere else? If this team has not been any good anywhere else, then it's going to show up, and they could be a good fade. So I think this is one that you want to look at, is the fingerprint away from home. I see John's bringing it up here right now. It's the AFH column there for this one, and we'll sort it by who has been the best teams away from home to the worst teams away from home. And to me, we've gotten enough of a sample size at this point that if a team is really looking bad away from home, they probably just aren't any good when they're not at home. Now, obviously, this year is very different from a normal year, but we still have some pretty drastic splits. Some of those teams in the Big Ten, they're really bad on the road. They're very good at home. A team that stands out to me is Minnesota. Minnesota, not a team I can bet on the road. A team that at the barn, they're good. They're a tough team to beat. We saw them beat Michigan. We've seen many good performances from them at home. On the road, Minnesota, I think, is a good fade. So I like the away from home one there that John is scrolling through, and you can just kind of see, the bigger sample size. You want the teams that have played multiple games on the road. You don't want the team that's only played 1 or 2 games on the road, because it could be skewed. John and I both know that 1 game or 2 games doesn't make a season. Anybody can play 1 good game or 1 really poor game, but once you start showing that over 5 or 6 games you're not very good on the road, you're probably just not very good anywhere other than at home. So I think that's a really good thing to look at. And I have one more that I think would be really good for people to look at, and that's from the matchup pages. You can look at it's PPST. And for that one, you have to go to the bottom of the screen and look at the matchup tabs for the teams that are playing each other that day. So you look at the matchups and you click on the preview there, the P, and on that, you can click on that and you can see how a team matches up, one team versus another. So you put the 2 teams up against each other, and if you look at points per possession off a steal, the PPST, then you're able to see, when a team gets a steal, how quick do they score off of it, and how does another team do in transition defense basically against that, or how are they at taking care of the basketball. John's brought up the Nova and St. John's game right here. Villanova, who I actually just randomly happen to be wearing a Villanova hat today. I don't know, Villanova, is that your team, John? Do you like Villanova?
It was purely random. I just clicked on it just to, out of curiosity.
All right, yeah, they're not necessarily my team either, but I like Jay Wright a lot. I respect their program. I think he's a great coach. From that, the PPST is how a team does as far as forcing turnovers and then a quick steal and score. You see from that on the St. John's side, St. John's is great at forcing these these turnovers and then scoring right away. But Villanova is number 1 in not letting that happen, down on the PPST tab. So on that, you see that Villanova is the perfect team to go against a full court press like St. John's has, because they take really good care of the basketball. So they shouldn't be allowing St. John's to get that quick steal and score, because they're number 1 at keeping that from happening. So in another game, like one today that stands out to me, that where you would see quite a bit of that, is VCU and Rhode Island. VCU and Rhode Island both press. Maybe John can click on that one and we can see a good example of that. But both of these teams press and they turn it into quick scores. Neither team is particularly good at keeping that from happening. So you see a big edge when it comes to the defense pressing and being able to allow the other team to score too quickly. That was on the far left there, John, the VCU URI. I think you kind of missed with he abbreviates the URI instead of Rhode Island maybe too. The tab down there on PPST, you see on VCU, they're 5th at forcing turnovers and scoring really quick at them, and URI, Rhode Island, 289th. So you would assume VCU is going to press and get some really quick steals and scores in this game. That's what they were able to do in the first game, and they won that game pretty handily. Now, on the other side, Rhode Island, pretty good at getting steals themselves. VCU not really bad at taking care of the basketball there. So, that would point to VCU having an advantage over them in a game like that. And I believe VCU won that first game by a decent amount. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I might have to look at that as we're talking. But
I think it was double digits.
Yeah, I think that game was high scoring. I know it was 83-68. I can't remember for sure which team won. I think VCU won that game. But this is one where, I would assume VCU would get quick steals and scores. Rhode Island will get a decent amount of those. I like the over in this game because of that. So I'm giving you guys a free play on that one. I bet this one last night. I think there's enough pressing and fouling and teams getting to the free throw line that you're going to see quite a few possessions in a game like this. So, but basically, Haslametrics, I think, is a great site where I like these matchup tabs that John's on right now because it allows you to see where the offense has the advantage, where the defense has the advantage. And especially if you're not like John and I, and you don't do this full time, you just want to bet this on the side, I think it's a really good quick handicap of a game. You don't have too much time to do it. You want to look from one page. I think this is a really good site to do that from.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I like this right here with the rabbits. I can understand that without it being a number. I'm the type of guy that has to see a number and know how that number was calculated. But I kind of like that. The arrows tell you a lot, just real quick. You're right. You could cap this game mentally in 5 minutes. Now, the one question I do have: what is SSC percentage?
The SCC percentage is second chance points. So basically, this is offensive rebounds and how quick you score off them, because it's not just an offensive rebound that you kick out and you reset the clock at 20 and you run offense again. It's how many second chance points that you score. I believe it's within 5 seconds or 6 seconds. He has it on his page there somewhere, but it's quick second chance points. And that's really important to both a side and a total. I mean, we've both watched these games enough to know that, and all of you that are watching this right now know that second chance points are killer. I mean, if you're betting a side and your team is giving up second chance points too often, it is really, really painful to watch. I mean, because those second chance points, they can lead into two things, right? You get an offensive rebound and you either score right off of it or you foul because you gave up an offensive rebound, and then the other team gets the line, they get in the bonus quicker, things like that. So second chance conversion percentage is what that is. So it's how quick can you turn that offensive rebound into points. So both of these teams actually had the advantage on second chance points, which is one of the other reasons that I like the over in this game.
This is kind of neat here too. The X factors to consider: the pace of play. It's all automated for you, which makes it quite easy to do. I'd say it's a phenomenal thing that he's done.
The other thing about this one is
when you can donate, which I'm going to definitely help this guy out.
Absolutely. He has a lot of numbers that some other sites don't have. And that's what's, not many places have the PPST, the second chance conversion percentage. Like I said, it's more specific. And for stats guys like John and I, we love really specific stats like that.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Any other game you want to look at, or should we call it a session?
Let's talk real quick Virginia Tech and Pitt here for tonight. I want to make sure as I'm talking that this line is about the same as it has been. 4 points in favor of Virginia Tech here. This is a really bad spot for Virginia Tech, and I like to be a combination of numbers and spot better. I'm not just numbers, and I'm not just a situational handicapper. I want to be both. So to me, while the numbers don't point to it strongly, I think Pitt here is in a pretty good position plus the points. This is not a big play of mine. It's going to be something that I bet small, and then I take the money line as well. Take something on the money line because Virginia Tech is coming off that huge win over Virginia, right? So that's their rival. That's a massive win for them. They just killed Virginia in that second half. It was about as good as they could play. Pitt has been embarrassed their last couple games. So I feel like Pitt, the market's about as low on them as they'll get, unless Pitt just, stinks the rest of the season and it's just really bad. But Pitt has had some good performances this year to where I would think this is a circle the wagons type of game for Pitt. So I think you get a lot of effort from Pitt in this one. And I don't know that Virginia Tech will be at their best in a game like this coming off that huge rivalry win.
Yeah, and the line is it opened, I guess, at 2.5 from what I'm seeing, and definitely the public is all over Virginia
Right.
Tech.
Yeah, this is definitely a contrarian play.
Yeah, I love these contrarian ones, especially this time of the year. Heading into the end of the regular season and conference tournaments, they're pretty powerful. Unfortunately, I don't have any real strong analytics. Other than Virginia Tech has struggled against good ball handling teams, which Pitt is, that Pitt's committing less than 14 turnovers per game. Virginia Tech against these types of teams is 10-21 against the number in games played over the last 2 seasons. So that's a pretty good one there. So this I appreciate you pointing this out to all of us.
Yeah, I hope that, I think John and myself like to try to make people better sports bettors in general, not just looking for a quick buck. I'm here to try to help you guys make some money as well. And if you can bet these games on your own, handicap these games better, I love that. We're trying to beat the books here and give information that gives you an edge. So I think that the breakdowns like this that Haslametrics has are very helpful in doing something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I might add that Pittsburgh, as you mentioned, is off 2 consecutive home losses, and they're 10-2 when that has occurred, and that's against the spread. So it doesn't happen very often, but in the last 10 years, they're 10-2 when they've lost 2 consecutive home games. That's pretty powerful stuff, Kyle.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Pitt is a team that has played really poorly a couple games in a row, and the market is really low on them. That's why everybody's betting Virginia Tech here. I don't want to go against Virginia Tech in general the rest of the season, but I think this is a bad spot for them. And Pitt, I mean, if they're ever going to give a good effort, it needs to be in a game like this.
And Virginia Tech shot 50% in that win and cover against Virginia, winning by 14. And the last 3 times they've shot 50% or better, they failed to cover the spread in the next game.
Yeah. Virginia Tech's shorthanded, one of their starters, so that is never helpful. And they shot that well against a really good Virginia defense without one of their starters. Can they keep that up long term? Probably not.
Yeah, that's a great point. You have time for one more question, or are you off to your next show?
I've got a couple more minutes here if you got a quick question.
Hopefully it'll be a short one. I actually bet Miami of Florida in their win against Duke, and it's certainly not to brag that they won the game outright. But one of the reasons that I did was because they only had 6 scholarship players available. But I started looking at the bench players and realizing, a long, long time ago, believe it or not, they had sports when I was in my 20s. But seriously, when you get a chance to play and start, and you're even a 3-star, 4-star recruit, not necessarily a 5-star, I don't care if you're not even a star recruit, you're going to bring the load, and you're going to try to, it's a showcase effort. And I think that's what we saw with Miami of Florida. And, they were 11-point dogs. And believe me, I never once in my write-up to my clients said that I didn't even sprinkle a little on the money line just in case. I just thought that it was too inflated and it would be a single-digit Duke win. But you had a situation, too, that Duke has been not Duke that we know, and they've been very inconsistent. Their defense, in my opinion, has just been very poor for a Duke team. They go through some periods of time that are probably worse than the Nets defense, if that's possible. But I just wanted to see what you thought about that. As that's something that doesn't drive the numbers in; it's more intuitive.
Yeah. First of all, I think the first point of that is people keep waiting for Duke to be the old Duke, and I'm not sure they're really that good this year. Maybe just Duke is not going to be good the rest of the season. I wouldn't want to bet on Duke. Every single week we've seen Duke takes significant money. Every game they go from -1 up to -4 or something like that, because people just keep assuming it's Duke. They're going to be really good. Like I've said, they have a big enough sample size now that I don't want to just assume that they're going to be great, because they've shown that they're not very good. Coach K is a good coach, so it's possible they improve, but I don't want to go in head first assuming that Duke's going to be really good here going out, because they haven't been. But yeah, I think you're right that also that Miami spot, Miami had played some road games. They had lost to Wake Forest on the road, and then Miami circles back home. And I think when you're without some key guys like that, if you're going to pull an upset or you're going to play better, I'd look at them at home versus on the road, because maybe they do get blown out in some of those road games where they're shorthanded. You kind of throw in the towel late in the game because you're down, but you got to have some pride and come back in one of those home spots. And like you said, sometimes these bench players, you're without some star players for a short time, at least you can play pretty well. And then maybe in the long run, things come back to even. So I wouldn't be anxious to bet Miami just in general throughout the rest of the season. But, like you said, that ended up being a great spot for them in that one.
Yeah, it was one of the times where I was the dog and not the fire hydrant, I guess. But I think that's a case in point here, especially when players are out due to the COVID. It was evident in the college football. And as you know, I'm kind of a Big Ten, SEC. I kind of gravitate towards those conferences, both football and basketball. But yeah, I definitely agree with all the points you made. I really don't have anything else, but I do want you to tell all the listeners where they can find you, and any specials you got running, any big subscriptions offerings you might have.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. I got to run here in just a minute anyway. So that's we had good timing here, but huntersportspicks.com is the website. You can go for premium packages there. I've lowered my prices here this week. You can always go over there for free picks as well. I've got the free picks newsletter that's done really well in the long run, about 60% over a large sample size. It's something where I can do more of the team totals, first half bets, things like that I'm not able to release on a lot of the other sites. So you can look for something like that. I'm planning on sending out a Super Bowl prop play for free to that free picks newsletter this weekend. So if you're not already signed up for that, I encourage you to do so. And also follow me on Twitter at Kyle Hunter Picks. I've been posting some of my totals numbers for college basketball, which have done really well in the long run, and also posting some free plays as well there at Kyle Hunter Picks.
Oh, that's awesome, Kyle. I'm glad you had a chance to share that with everybody. And as I've said, if I wasn't doing this profession, I'd be buying from Kyle. That's it. That's all I need to say.
Yeah.
So we'll conclude here. Thanks for joining me again, Kyle. Kyle's going to be on here as many Wednesday afternoons as possible, which will be a great asset to have in the show. And we'll be back at you guys tomorrow. And as I like to say, may all the wins be yours.